Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode of In the Clouds with Red Hat Leadership here on Openshift TV. I'm Chris Short, executive producer of Openshift TV. Today I'm joined by the one and only Sathish Balakrishnan, VP of Managed Services. How are you doing today, Satish?
Very good, Chris. Great to be here with you.
It's great to have you on. I'm very excited to have you on. Managed services is just one of those things where people often kind of like they see OpenShift and they don't realize that we have this managed service component that could help them so much. So, like, you want to give people a little background, maybe introduce yourself a little bit, like where you kind of like cut your teeth on everything and how you got to where you are now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it is, as you rightly point out, it is a good hidden secret offering, at least so far. It's like
Yeah.
one of those stealth offerings that we're really bringing up in the market.
Yeah, it's getting a lot better, a lot better, and a lot
So,
more breadth. So yeah,
yeah.
that's very good to have you on today.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah. So I've been at Red Hat for 7 years now, right?
Okay.
And I've been working on managed services for Red Hat for all this time.
Wow.
Trying to make sure that we have a very credible managed services offering that we can, at the right opportune time with the right maturity, go push to the market. And that's what I've been doing here, cutting my teeth, trying to make sure that the company from every aspect, not just from the service delivery aspect, but every aspect is ready to take on managed services and help Red Hat accelerate its already really fast growth.
Right. Like, and I think that's what people don't realize is that Red Hat is like a fast growing company still. And even though, we're under IBM or part of IBM, however you want to phrase that, language, right? Like we're still moving at a very fast clip. And it's always interesting to get a little context to set the table. When did you first hear about Red Hat? Because I've always like bumped into people and they're just like, yeah, I heard about Red Hat then, and then I started working at Red Hat like sometime thereafter, right? So when did you first hear about Red Hat? Out of curiosity.
I think a long time back, right in the
Hmm.
early in the 2000s, you heard about
Yeah,
Linux and get the Linux Shadowman CD to install it and do
there you
all of
go.
those
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
But
that's
as
awesome.
a company, it never came across because I live in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been here
Hmm.
for like 17, 18 years now. And Red Hat has a very small presence here, and it's growing its presence here. So it never occurred to me that Red Hat would be a company that I would work for. And I worked for software as a service before software as a service was software as a service, back
Right.
in
Yeah.
2005, right? And I was in the cloud business for I've been at Red Hat, as I said, 7 years, 2013. So I was already 8 years into running software as a service, and I used to work for a company that did contact center and telecommunication in the cloud
Oh,
before it was
okay.
even
Yeah.
possible, right? Uh, and so Red Hat approached me and said, "Hey, we're going to build this cloud business, and would you be interested?" And my first reaction was like, "You're a Linux company, right? I'm
Right.
not going to
Yeah.
even talk to you guys because I'm working in this really cool cloud space. So I'd rather go do something at like a cloud provider or
Hmm.
a big SaaS company. We used to work a lot with Salesforce.com than with Red Hat." But I think Red Hat made like a pretty compelling pitch, and it looked to me like the people that I spoke to were really, really nice people that were genuine, were authentic, were passionate about the company, passionate about what they do, and it's probably the best choice I made. Right, answer that call from the recruiter and say yes to speak to Red Hat because I think I've been here. It's been a blast. I think Red Hat is an incredibly awesome company. It does, everything that people read about in every book around open culture and everything is like absolutely true, right?
Yeah. It's
Uh,
not fluff. It's
it's
very,
not,
very,
it's
very
it's
authentic. Yes.
exactly, it's a phenomenal company, right? And I would say it is. It's not a recruiting pitch as much, but I think
No.
if you ever get an opportunity to work at Red Hat, that would probably be like an amazing opportunity that you should never pass.
Exactly. Yes, I would encourage you to take it up if you get offered such an opportunity. So managed services, right? Like there's a lot of like I used to work for a managed service provider before I worked at Red Hat, right? Like, and basically that was a SaaS company, right? So there's a lot of definitions I feel like of managed services to us. Red Hat, what is managed services?
It's a great question because, yeah, managed services, you ask 10 people and you get like 15 different answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as people go through their thinking of when you ask them a question like that, they change their mind as they answer the question. So the beginning and the end may not be maybe exactly the opposite. So I think what does managed services mean? So I think Red Hat, let's just back up a little bit, right? Red Hat's legacy and history is in software, in shipping software and providing and monetizing support. So that's basically Red Hat's bread and butter. That's where the majority of the revenue comes from.
Right.
But as the software is taken to the cloud, right, and customers are consuming more things in the cloud as from a cloud provider as a service, the customers request and require software vendors to offer the software as a managed service, as a cloud service, as a service that they do not have to worry about, right? And it becomes more important, especially when you start talking about a platform like Openshift, right, rather than an operating system like Linux, because an operating system is already, in some ways, right, it's managed by the customer, it's managed by the cloud provider, it's managed by somebody. So when you start providing a platform layer like OpenShift, which is more than one machine, and it's like a complicated set of capabilities put together in a very nice manner that's completely tested, it's enterprise friendly or enterprise driven, and as well as completely supported. Customers tend to ask us, hey, can I have this? Can I consume your software as a service in the cloud? And that's what a managed service is to take the Red Hat offering and have an opinion on how it should be offered based on years of experience of development of software and managing the software itself, and providing that to customers so that it's just another option. It's not doesn't mean that we don't offer the software as that we've been offering for years. We still offer that, and it is just another choice that we layer in for our customers to be able to better consume the value that OpenShift and Red Hat provides. So it's not the 2000s managed service provider. It's more the 2020s cloud service provider, but we are offering OpenShift as a cloud service, but we completely manage OpenShift so that customers don't have to worry about managing OpenShift.
And I think that's probably the most intriguing part to me, at least, right? Because when I think of like our customers, right, like a lot of our customers are very good at infrastructure, right? They've run Linux systems. They want to manage their control planes. They have opinions about how things should be run. But some of our customers, they're not in the software running business, right? Like they don't necessarily have all those skills necessary to run like a full cloud native stack of applications and microservices on hand sometimes, right? So giving them that help, I feel like, enables organizations to level up without having to onboard those skill sets. How do we help organizations onboard? What does that onboarding process for the managed service look like? I mean, people can consume it themselves. People can have the white glove treatment as well. I think there's a lot of ways to get this managed service. What is one of the ways we deliver it, and how does it benefit having that as an option?
No, absolutely. I think it's a really good question, right? And I think now, since you asked this question, let's just walk through the different offerings we have, because I think then you'll have different ways to consume. So I think the first thing going by is OpenShift is available as software. It's self-managed, so that you can actually take the OpenShift bits for that customer that has the skills and wants the level of customization that they want, and they want it in their on-prem, or they want it in a cloud of their choice or regional cloud provider. They have that option. That self-managed option always exists.
Always.
The second option that we have is what we call the CCSPs, right? Certified Cloud Service Providers, which are Red Hat has thousands of CCSP partners, like the global service system integrators. Those providers, all of them, all the top providers have an OpenShift practice, and they actually can manage OpenShift as well, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So you can go to an Accenture, a Deloitte, you can go to a TCS, a Wipro, and Infosys, any of these companies, and you can get them to manage OpenShift for you. That again is pretty astounding, that just the ability to do that. And that's a managed service.
Right.
And then the third level is really a Red Hat offering, right? Where Red Hat offers a completely managed OpenShift that's available on a public cloud provider.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth category is really the cloud provider themselves offering a managed OpenShift, as in the case of Azure, as in the case of IBM Cloud, as well as the upcoming relationship we have with AWS. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the four different ways in which you can consume OpenShift. And the last three of them are really how you can consume it as a managed service.
Right.
So you can go to an Accenture and you can ask them to completely customize OpenShift and stand it up for you, or any of the SIs that I mentioned, or like the thousands of partners that we have. For example, in Japan, we have a completely managed service practice with like pretty much like all the largest SIs in the practice, right? So that's pretty awesome. And then the second one is when you come to Red Hat OpenShift dedicated, it's very simple. You just go to, get a subscription from Red Hat and go to cloud.redhat.com and get started on OpenShift with a few clicks, right? You have 3 or 4 clicks, and then you get started on the OpenShift experience in the cloud of your choice. And then the last one is really when you go to an Azure, where you can use an Azure command, AZOC, create cluster. And then you can basically create a cluster, right? So you can actually use an Azure console command or an Azure portal experience to get started on the OpenShift experience without really having to do anything with Red Hat. And that's, I think, the power of OpenShift. And it's going to soon appear on AWS as well. We already have this on IBM. So that's actually the level of partnerships that we have, that you can actually get started as a native cloud experience on the cloud as well.
And it's interesting to me, right? Because a lot of the hyperscalers, right? Like the AWSs, the Googles, the IBMs, they have their own like Kubernetes offerings, but they also see value in having an OpenShift offering, right? Like that to me is very telling, intriguing, and how is a managed OpenShift different from one of those XKS type services, right? Like there is a lot to OpenShift, but it's the entire stack that you need to get Kubernetes running and cloud native applications up and running.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, right?
Yeah.
And a good question. It's a better question for the cloud providers, but I think since I work with them a lot, I'll answer. I'll try to answer that. But so you're absolutely right, right? Red Hat's been invested in Kubernetes since the beginning of the project.
Right.
We've been here since Google announced it. We've been in the press release where they announced it. So that's the level of involvement of Red Hat to Kubernetes. In some ways, I would say our mission in the early days was to make sure Kubernetes really, really runs well everywhere.
Right.
Becomes that orchestration layer of choice, right? When we look back in 2015, when we made the choice to go to Kubernetes, you had Mesos, you had Swarm,
tons of them. Yeah.
Cloud Foundry, and now Cloud Foundry is a Kubernetes. Kubernetes developer experience. That's what they've rebranded themselves. Mesos has renamed themselves, right, into this very interesting name. And then you have, Swarm doesn't exist anymore. So pretty much everybody is now gravitated towards Kubernetes. And I think a lot of testament should go to one of the Kubernetes communities, but also Red Hat engineers who champion Kubernetes everywhere strategy, which is put Kubernetes as a first-class citizen on AWS, on Azure, on data center, bare metal, OpenStack, every place possible. VMware, every place possible. Right? So much so that AWS and Microsoft have a Kubernetes offering. Right? It's a Google project that they have an offering on, and they've hired the founders, and they've done a phenomenal job of supporting Kubernetes. And I think that is, I think the first thing I want to highlight is Red Hat's been instrumental in making Kubernetes everywhere work really well. So the second thing is what does Kubernetes really orchestrate? It's Linux, right? And it's a container. A container is nothing but Linux.
Yeah.
So as Red Hat customers go to the cloud and they look at it and they say, hey, I'm a Red Hat And we know that 495 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies, or 490 of them, use RHEL as the standard operating system in their data center. As they move to the cloud, they're like looking for, how can I have a RHEL container being orchestrated? And that basically just naturally goes towards, how can I get OpenShift there?
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
despite the competing priorities, I think the cloud providers have listened to the customers that want to use OpenShift as a managed service, as a native managed service. And we've been able to string these partnerships, right, with these cloud providers, which are unheard of, right? I think OpenShift is the only offering that is native or a console offering on 3 of the 4 largest clouds, on AWS, on Azure, and IBM Cloud. That's actually a pretty phenomenal testament to the success of OpenShift. So if somebody is really listening to this and saying, hey, should I go pick OpenShift? If the cloud providers know something about OpenShift is special and it's probably a good thing to have, then you should probably have no doubt. Right? Because if you're moving to the cloud, it's a great opportunity to just go use OpenShift as a native offering. If you're already in a data center using OpenShift, it basically at least removes one layer that you don't have to worry about when you go to the cloud. And I think that's the background of this. And now to answer your question, right? OpenShift is Kubernetes, but it includes a lot more things on top of Kubernetes.
Exactly.
So that's the first thing that we offer is, it's much more than Kubernetes. It includes all the CI/CD pipelines. It includes things like Istio, Service Mesh, Knative, all of those things that, are value added that customers are looking for and, tend to expect from like a Kubernetes platform. That's the first thing. Second thing is we do more than managed, right? We are actually, if you look at any of these XKS services, they provide Kubernetes as an API. They don't worry about the operating system that you have on the worker nodes, the patching, and all of those things. Red Hat provides like a complete soups to nut managed services. So we actually completely manage the entire platform. And I think that's like an important distinction, because what that means is you actually don't have to worry about the Kubernetes platform. You don't have to worry about patching your operating system. You don't have to worry about, is this Istio going to work properly? Is this database going to work properly?
Exactly.
Right? SQL Server container going to work properly on OpenShift? It will work because we test it. And if you go look at our testing matrix, right, and we can throw a link at some point in time. We when we ship OpenShift, we test against like 400, 500 different things and make sure that OpenShift works with all of those ISV software, make sure it works with all of these scenarios, all of these cloud providers, all of this infrastructure footprints. And that's the level of security that you get, right, about whether the platform will work after the upgrade is made. And I think that's really like the 3 big differences that you have. One, right, more than Kubernetes. Second, more than managed. And we provide a lot more, it's like a literally enterprise Kubernetes in some ways, because we test the hell out of it.
Well, and I think what people don't realize in the XKS kind of scenarios is you lose control of the control plane, right? Like, which I think is kind of going to become a bigger deal, right? Like, as people start to extend Kubernetes and work with Kubernetes more, they're going to want more of a controlled experience around or customizable experience around the control plane itself. And we have opinions about how to run the control plane, but we have a lot of options in how to run that control plane as well. So that's what I think you get in, a managed OpenShift, or just OpenShift in general, versus some of the XKS outings, because they kind of say, okay, we've got the control plane, but here's your worker nodes and off you go kind of deal. It's the entire package that we're giving our customers, and that gives more power to the customer, in my opinion. And the benefits of doing that are numerous, but like, what are you most excited about coming in the near future, or just your day-to-day work, right? Like, you get up and you're excited about doing what today, right? Like, what brings you joy in this job?
No, I think it's really to help our customers with their digital transformation, right? I think think of all the things we've done, right? We made Kubernetes everywhere. We made every other project adopt Kubernetes. That's a good achievement, right? We have a native service on like the major clouds. That's actually pretty good. So we are actually expanding the choice of helping our customers with their digital transformation and the cloud native transformation. And I think that's really exciting, right? And I think our job is like, it's just getting started. We still have a long way to go, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what is exciting because, for every 10 steps we take, there are 3 steps we take back because, hey, we didn't think of this. So we are moving in a very, very fast world. We make 4 major updates a year.
Hmm.
We make
Yeah.
12 other updates for security patches. We have 2 big CVE that comes out because of some microprocessor problem, some problem
Hmm.
somewhere else, right? So we got to make sure we do all of those things at the same time. We want the velocity of the functionality and the features that customers are looking for, and that therein lies the challenge, right? And and every customer has unique problems. Some of them are, in the data center, they can't really leave the data center, so we got to figure out how to cater to them. Some of them
Hmm.
want to be in the specific cloud, and then we have a lot of government agencies that are looking for things behind air-gapped environments, right? How do we
Right.
support that? So
Yeah.
every time we solve 5 problems, we get 10 new problems to solve it, and that's really
Well,
the excitement of the space we are in.
yeah, I think the whole air gap thing is just fascinating to me, right? Like, because having come from that space and just like thinking of OpenShift and air gap and all the work that we've put into that to make that possible is just phenomenal to me because like the ability we're bringing to anywhere at that point is Kubernetes plus Prometheus plus all the monitoring and the logging, everything you need to run your cloud native application. Oh, and you can do it and you don't need the internet access necessarily to have all that functionality.
Exactly.
That I think is what like, oh, I can do cloud without cloud, right? Like I think that is the cool part
Exactly.
by itself. But the can you actually get a managed air gap offering? Like, can we do that in GovCloud or anything? I think.
So we are working on a few projects. So you'll hear
Okay.
about it. You'll hear, or maybe you'll not hear about it. So, but yeah, I think the government has I think has embraced the cloud and has
Hmm.
embraced the managed services quite a bit, right? So I think we have multiple ways, as I said, right? We have 4 different ways to consume OpenShift. 3
Hmm.
of them are managed. So we do have a lot of partners that basically have the certification, the compliance, and the access into all of these air-gapped environments where they
Hmm.
can offer a very credible OpenShift. And I think one of the things that we do, it'll be good to call out as part of what you're asking is we actually open source a lot of the tools, or pretty
Yeah.
much all the tools and all the things that we do, we use to manage OpenShift, which is what our CCSP partners leverage.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's a huge benefit. And I think we advise our partners on how to better run a managed OpenShift. And that's again another value add because we have put ourselves in the place of offering a managed OpenShift. We have proven to our partners that there is a business here. It's a really credible business that you can build on top of managing OpenShift.
Hmm.
And I think as part of that, right, we enable our partners, we try to train them, we give them all the best practices, we give them the best architecture, and we open source all the tools that we use. So it's very easy for a partner of ours to basically sign up for the program, leverage our tools, and get started on a business of managing OpenShift. Because one of the things I'm sure, Chris, you hear this all the time is recruiters calling us, pinging us on LinkedIn for, hey, can you come and help me with this OpenShift consulting project? And I have a customer that wants help. And
Hmm.
one of the things we are trying to do is to solve all of those things. So the demand for OpenShift skills is really, really high.
Yes, it is. And I frequently get LinkedIn pings. Do you know OpenShift? Can you come help this? Yeah. It's kind of never ending. So the all the offerings we have, there's one big cloud missing. Do we have anything in the works with Google potentially?
So we do have OpenShift dedicated on Google, right? I
Okay.
think so. We do have an offering, Red Hat
Hmm.
offering that is available on Google, right? We announced that back in 2017, and we relaunched it back in April of 2020 with the OpenShift 4 bits. So we do have that offering, right? And that's an offering that customers can leverage today. And we do have a couple of customers that are actually getting started on that offering. So that is a valid offering, right? And in terms of is there going to be a joint offering or not, time will tell, right? Stay
Right.
tuned, right? As we figure out, how things work with Google Cloud. I'm sure there's always an opportunity for partnering with any cloud that is out there.
Yeah, and the kind of Red Hat mantra of being the Switzerland, I think, really kind of helps everybody, right? Like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing, right? Like we're contributing back to the project. We're trying to help you, um, you know, level up your organization into and transform into this cloud native era. But speaking of transformation, right? Like, how have things changed since the IBM acquisition? Like, that's a top question I get, right? Like, people pull me aside, right? Like, last family gathering I had before the whole pandemic, right? Like, my wife's grandfather pulled me aside. He's like, has IBM changed anything? Like, are they mucking with the works? Right? And so it's like it's a constant question I get. From your perspective, how have things changed? How have things gotten better? Improved? However you want to phrase it, right? Like, what has the IBM acquisition done for you?
It's a really good question, and it's one that I get asked all the time, right?
Hmm.
Similar to your wife's grandfather, I get pinged by everybody that I meet. They're like, "Hey, you're IBM now, right?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I have to
Mm,
correct that. No, 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 I'm not IBM.
no, exactly. Yeah,
We are fully owned by IBM, but IBM is a partner of ours." And I think that,
yeah. Like a
so
lot of
I
people
think
don't realize that, right? Like we do treat IBM like a partner. Yeah.
I think I'd say a few things. One, nothing has changed, right? Except that
Hmm.
we don't have RHT as the stock symbol anymore. It's IBM as the stock symbol.
Right.
That's I think one thing that has changed, and it's changed for all of us, and I think it's very public change.
Yeah.
But I think IBM, has I think Ginny said, the IBM chairman said in our Red Hat Summit last year, in 2019, she said, like, I don't have a $34 billion death wish, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think they have stayed true to the word, right? There is absolutely no interaction with IBM, right, in terms of product decisions and so any strategic decisions we do. And I think I think they understand that neutrality for Red Hat is the only way that we can win hybrid cloud, right? Who's going to be more credible? A cloud provider trying to run a service on another cloud, or a neutral party that doesn't have a cloud running service on every single cloud, right? And
Right.
I think the answer was very clear. It's the latter. And I
Hmm.
think IBM recognizes it, and I think they understand it really well, and they treat themselves as a partner of Red Hat, and we treat them as a partner of Red Hat. Because think of the AWS announcement we made, right, of the joint relationship partnership with AWS for a joint offering. That was announced this year,
Right.
uh, after the IBM acquisition, and IBM only knew about it right after we made the announcement, right? So I think, and AWS did this with us, not with IBM, right? The
Right.
announcement was with Red
Yeah.
Hat, not with IBM. So I think IBM is staying true to their word, completely independent, leaving Red Hat completely independent, and I think.
Fettered. Yeah.
And I think, and I think we've been executing really well. I think we've been doing really well. I think Arun mentioned that the confidence of Red Hat has basically helped them spin off their GTS business, which is
Yeah.
again
Like.
a
Yeah.
testament to how well the IBM Red Hat acquisition has happened, right?
I
And I
mean,
think it's
a lot of changes happened at IBM as a result of the Red Hat acquisition, which I think is probably more telling than Red Hat getting acquired by IBM, right? Like,
absolutely.
so yeah, like they've kind of seen the future coming kind of deal, right? Like, and for lack of a better term, Red Hat's doing it right now, right? So I think it was a brilliant acquisition, and you're right. I don't think it's impacted my day-to-day life at all. If anything, it's made it more fun because I get to do stuff like this, right? Like, I have an opportunity now to talk to you, to talk to the people out there about things like Openshift and how it can help them escalate and elevate their organizations and their journey into their cloud native futures. So, I'm kind of running low on questions here, and it's fine. We have no like time box. Is there anything like last parting thoughts you want to discuss before we maybe sign off, or any kind of nuggets of wisdom you can share with our audience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, yeah, no, I think this has been really good. I think the main thing I want to say is, Red Hat has been investing in managed services for a long time, right? I think, in fact,
Yeah.
OpenShift was born in the cloud.
Yeah.
OpenShift back in 2011 was, if you go look Google
Hmm.
and you find it in the Wayback Machine, We used
Hmm.
to have OpenShift Flex and Flex Express. That's basically how OpenShift was born. So Red Hat has a long history of managed services, almost a decade of managed services. And I think Red Hat also, right, with OpenShift on Kubernetes.
Hmm.
As between us and Google, we have been the longest tenure of offering Kubernetes as a service.
Yeah.
So we've been offering managed OpenShift on Kubernetes since 2015. That's almost 5 years, almost 6 years running
Yeah.
of managed OpenShift on Kubernetes or managed Kubernetes. So we have a lot of credibility and a lot of experience, right?
Hmm.
And then OpenShift itself, right, has now in OpenShift 3 to OpenShift 4, we are in the second generation of OpenShift on Kubernetes. So we have a
Hmm.
lot of learnings of running Kubernetes, while a lot of other vendors and other competitors, because there are like 40 different vendors that are offering Kubernetes as a software distribution,
Hmm.
they're all just getting started on the journey. They don't even have a 1.0 product, right? We are on the second version of OpenShift on Kubernetes. So we've had a lot of learnings, and we are bringing all those learnings into our managed service offerings as well. The operator framework, the automated updates, all of those things that we have done, right? Nobody else has. Nobody is even thinking about it because they're trying to figure out how can I
How to
ship Kubernetes?
Kubernetes. Yeah.
How can I ship Kubernetes? And we're
Yeah.
already like, hey, forget shipping. Here's a button that you can update your Kubernetes
Hmm.
automatically. So we're almost in the second generation, right? And we've taken all of those learnings into our managed service as well. So that's the second thing I want to highlight. The third thing, I think, Chris, you alluded to it, is we have OpenShift is offered as a native offering on AWS, on Azure, or console offering. You can get started on a console on AWS,
Hmm.
Azure, and IBM
Landline.
Cloud.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
again, we're the only company in the whole world that has that. And that's a testament to the success of OpenShift,
Hmm.
also to the usefulness of OpenShift and the importance of OpenShift for enterprises. So if you're really listening to this and saying, hey, should I go and pick OpenShift? All these customers that we have, the 2,000 plus customers that are the Fortune 500 that are running
Hmm.
enterprise workloads and mission critical workloads, as well as the cloud providers have realized there is a value for OpenShift and there's an importance for OpenShift in the hybrid cloud world. And that's something that I want to really highlight, right?
I am very proud that a lot of the companies that I do business with use OpenShift, right? Like it is a very, very prideful thing for me because that means we're doing something right. We're helping our customers in the best way possible. And if I'm using their services, that means they're doing good stuff because I don't buy crap, you know?
Absolutely, right. And I think the last thing I'll say is with OpenShift, we offer choice.
Right.
You can consume it as self-managed or managed, right? And we all know that Kubernetes is 5 years old or 6 years old,
Almost, yeah.
almost. So you're not going to find somebody that has 10 years of experience in Kubernetes. You're not going to find somebody that has 20 years of experience in Kubernetes.
Doesn't exist.
In fact, Kubernetes skills are very, very hard to find. And if you are one of those customers that say, hey, Kubernetes is hard for me, or I can't do it, then you don't have to worry if you're going to pick OpenShift, because we have a service in every major cloud that we have. In fact, we have joint services on some of the major clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very easy, low friction way to get started, so that you as a customer can focus on your applications and your business value, not on the platform, and we'll take care of the platform.
Exactly. I like the low friction. That's very, very well put. Very, very well put. So thank you very much for that, Sathish. And thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so I'll let you get back to everything and managing our services for us. And thank you very much for joining us on OpenShift TV.
Thanks, Chris, for having me on. I look forward to more time coming on OpenShift TV. And I think you've been doing an amazing job on OpenShift TV. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much.
I look forward to chatting soon. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.